Mind Gym Part 2 is live.
Is Tyson on? He's going to kick us off today.
Wrong. You got me now? You guys got me? Yeah, cool. Welcome, guys. We are mind gymming round 2. If you weren't on the first call, what we do, John, myself, and Dan, and we've also got David is going to be sharing something today. David's not with us, so we're going to be playing a bit of a recording on his behalf. If you didn't join us in the first part, I opened us up with a bit of a meditation to set us up. Then we're going to go into some mind word game, language games with Dan, an exercise from John, and then another somatic kind of exercise with David. So with that being said, if you want to, you can switch off your screen if you don't want to be sitting there kind of meditating with with your video on. But if you just find yourself a comfortable position, first up, what I'm going to share with you guys before we drop into the med, I'm going to share with you a little diagram that I like to use with people, with any of my clients and stuff like that I'm working with, just to kind of set the standard or set a little bit of a check-in with yourself now, and then see what maybe might shift throughout the session, or you can kind of even come back to this, especially like if you find you're struggling with something in life or whatever it is, or there's something that's it kind of begins to give you just like a little bit more of a little bit of a check-in, allows you to check in on what's going on. So 3 green lights, I'm right as rain, I'm thriving, everything's good, and there's nothing really worrying me. 2 green lights, good, but if something is a little off and I kind of can't put my finger on it, things are slipping and I need help with 1 light, green light, then you start to get into your red lights. So 1 red light, struggling to keep my head above the water, so like things are kind of starting to get on top of me. 2 red lights, things are really tough and I can't seem to find the answers. And then 3 red lights rather, I need help, I'm in a bad way. So when we can kind of begin to get, when we can begin to notice this stuff coming up for us, and we can give us our lights situation, we can begin to seek out help, whether it's through a psychologist or someone like that, if it's really deep down into those 3 red lights, or it might be a mentor or someone through the middle that can actually help shed some light. So just make a quick mental note on where you are now. Don't give it too much judgment, and you want to write it down. If you want to journal about it later on, that's there. We'll retouch base at the end of this session and see whether anything's shifted. So without further ado, I'm going to just share a screen. Last time we had a few people join late and they were in the middle of the thing, so I've just made a little screen share there. So yeah, if anyone does come in, they'll be able to kind of mute themselves and not interrupt us. Okay, so guys, wherever you are, just take the moment just to sit back. You don't have to be bolt upright. Allow the soles of the feet to be flat on the floor. If you're lying down in bed, maybe just kind of allowing your chest to be propped up a little bit. Just gently close down the eyes. Allow the face to become expressionless. Allow the shoulders to come down and rest down away from the ears. The jaw relaxes. Sides of the neck relax. Just bringing the attention to your breath. Just noticing where you're breathing, whether you're breathing higher up into the chest or deeper down into the belly. With each breath in, can you begin to send that breath a little deeper down into the belly? Getting a full diaphragm inhale. Feel the belly button expand. And the exhale, the belly just softens. With each breath in, see if you can fill up the lungs a little bit more. Feel the belly expand, then the chest. Just visualizing every little air sac in the lungs expanding. Few more breaths here. Just notice the body softening, relaxing. If there's any thoughts presenting themselves, just notice them for the moment. Notice what they are. Is it a judgment or a self-belief that is occurring? Is it a doubt? Or is there a really kind of positive flow with these thoughts? Just notice them, don't give them any weight. Allow them to be there. And with that deepest exhale, just allow them to blow away. Your mind is just guiding you. The breath is taking those thoughts and moving them around. If there's a persistent one, maybe that's something that we need to look at. Maybe it's something that just needs to be let go. Just noticing how some of these thoughts that might be coming into your mind, whether they're creating an energy within the body. Notice where that might sit. You might be thinking of your children. Gives you that kind of warm, fuzzy feeling in the chest. Might be thinking of your in-laws and they might be giving you some stress and they might give you that kind of pit of the stomach. Just noticing where that occurs. And can you just begin to soften into these areas and soften the thoughts? When I say soften, you don't have to become all soft and mushy. It's just maybe flipping it on its head. If it's a kind of a negative kind of tone, can you find the flip or the shadow of it? Flip it and see how the opposite feels. If it's a positive, great. But even if we have those positive moments, we can acknowledge the shadow. It's there. We know it's there. Acknowledge it, and we can move through it. Now just let all the thoughts disappear. They may not disappear totally, that's fine. But let's just set an intention for your session today. Why have you shown up? What are you wanting to achieve? You might not know why you've shown up. You might not know why you're here. But deep down, you'll know you've shown up for a reason. Set that intention. Repeat it. Feel it. Let it sink deep down into the subconscious. Two more breaths here. Last breath in, breathe deep down into the belly, up into the chest. Hold it there. Open the mouth, let it out. When you're ready, just gently opening the eyes. Meditation is now complete. Welcome back, guys. We've found our intention, found a spot to be, landed. That is my part for today, or for this morning, this afternoon, or this evening, wherever you are. I'm going to hand the floor over to Dan, who's got some language games and stuff for us to go on with. So let's get flexing our muscles. Over to you, Dan.
Thank you, Tyson. That was great. Good evening, morning, afternoon. Just like Tyson said, we're all over the world, yeah. I'll start off. Almost 10 years stuck on a floating prison with 21 other inmates sentenced to long hours and hard labor. Years wasted with no way out. My friends living their best lives in their 20s while I sit on a boat in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. I will always be a stupid fisherman is something that repeated often in my head. The stories we tell ourselves about ourselves shape who we are in the present. I left deep sea fishing 6 years ago. That story kept me stuck with little momentum for 3 of those years. Most of these stories we bring with us from past experiences, and most of them are outdated and never get challenged. A quote for you guys from the book King, Warrior, Magician, Lover. Words, in fact, define our reality. They define our worlds. We organize our lives and our worlds by concepts, by our thoughts about them, and we can only think in terms of words. In this sense, at least, words make our reality and make our universe real. I will always be a stupid fisherman. My world was defined by this belief, this story, this particular sentence, all held together by one word. Always. The word always can only ever be black or white. There's no middle ground. There's no gray area. I thought I would always be a stupid fisherman. We call that binary language. It's the language or that defines a person or a situation as categorically being one way or one thing. That one word held me back from thriving. It was only when I started challenging the story that created the beliefs about myself did I begin to make momentum and progress and expand. And that goes into what we're talking about today, mindset. Mindset refers to the way we think about ourselves, the world around us. It's our attitudes, our beliefs that shape our perception and guide our behaviors. In other words, it's the lens through which we view the world. This narrative, this inner dialogue is just a bunch of words and sounds combined together. And with this, start changing the words, you can begin to change your mindset and expand your perception. I'll copy that quote quickly into the chat. Before you guys grab a pen and paper. Because if all I did was talk and you guys listen, then I would just be entertaining you. And change comes from action. So grab that pen and paper. This is a collaborative call and we put in the reps. Mind gym, let's flex. Okay, let's play a language game. Okay, so most people should on themselves from time to time. I said should, not should. Some people do it a lot. Should statements create pressure and for some odd reason are a great indicator of the things that we won't be doing. I should drink more water. You don't have to write yet. I'll give you guys the time to write. I should drink more water, but I'm not going to. I should stretch more, but I'll talk myself out of it. I should book calls with uncom players more often, but I'll scroll through Netflix and Instagram instead. Sound familiar? So write 3 should statements, things that you should be doing, whatever comes to mind, whether that be in an athletic pursuit, a richer pursuit, a smarter pursuit, a masterminding pursuit. 3 should statements. I should train more. I should finish that sales page. I should get more organized. Just thinking out loud, you guys. Okay, give you guys another 20 seconds or so. And if you've got 3 should statements, just raise your hand. I'll ask you to read them out loud if you are willing to jump on. Yeah, John, what you got there?
I was done pretty quick. This is one I've been floating around. I should be more focused and reduce my priorities.
Okay.
Do you want me to say the others?
If you want, yeah.
I should use more of what I teach, and I should eat more in line with my diet.
Okay. And what type of feelings does it create to say that? What emotions come with those statements?
It's a bit restricting, like a tightness, physical tightness.
Okay. So restricting, tightness. Awesome. Anybody else you want to read theirs? I'll go one more. Just raise your hand. Okay, Garrett.
I should pray more. I should read and meditate on the Bible more. I should train more.
And how did those feel? What comes up?
I get kind of encouraged.
Okay.
Like, yeah, I should. Let's do it.
Okay. Hold that thought, and let's jump to the next part of that. So, writing the same sentence again underneath. This time, take out the should and put in the word could. So I could drink more water. I could stretch more. I could book calls with uncom players more often. I could finish that sales page. I could get more organized. And then John, you want to go again with reading those out loud and seeing what comes up, if there's any difference.
I could be more focused. Could teach more. Could eat my diet.
Yeah, there would be some edits there. But like, how does that feel?
More action focused. Probably more curious, maybe.
Yeah, I like that. Curious. So it starts adding a little bit more perception. Your universe starts to open up to possibility. Is that an accurate word? Anybody else have similar feelings around that when they read those could statements? Guys can just put a thumbs up or nod your head. Okay. Awesome. So that's one word change. Let's go to the next step. Write the same sentences again, but this time take I could and put in can. So I can drink more water. I can stretch more. I can book calls with uncom players more often. And once you're done with that, read them out loud to yourselves. Check in, see what that feels like. See what that opens you up to, the mental image. And then Garrett and John, I'll call you guys again. And if anybody else wants to have a crack at it, just.
I'm happy for anyone else to have a go.
Yeah, Cody.
Yeah, read mine out.
Go ahead.
I can prioritize better. I can be more disciplined. I can spend my money more wisely.
How does that feel, Cody? From the should to the could to the can.
Yeah, the first thing that popped into my mind was like I could do this with a lot more things. Like whereas when it was a should, it felt like a burden that I wanted to run away from.
Yeah.
A little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, shoulds are they create this unconscious stress of like, oh, I should, and we just keep on adding these little mini stresses. I should. Well, you can, and then going to the next step. Thanks, Cody. Going to the next step is, the power of because. As Robert B. Cialdini noted in his book, Influence, the Psychology of Persuasion, it essentially doesn't matter what comes after the word because in a sentence. Simply put, adding the word because to a sentence equates to 33% more buy-in, simply by including the word because and an explanation. I mean, we love stats as men, so 33% more buy-in. I mean, you could literally just add in the word because. I can drink more water because. Of course, we're going to go a step further and we're going to add an example. So writing out those same sentences, I can, because, and whatever reason comes to mind for you. So I can drink more water because it's actually easy when I fill up my jug in the morning and take it with me. I can stretch more because I have time in the morning. I can book calls with uncom players more often because it energizes me and I have time to do it. I can get organized because I have the know-how. And if you want a little added accountability, type those in the chat. Type one or two of them in the chat if you feel called to. So other players, other people can see what you've written. They might get ideas and, have a call with them and they'll ask you about it. And of course, now that you have written those down, read it with the because statement, and I'll check in with whoever wants to jump on. What does that create? How does it feel to say? I'll call you John.
I always finish quick with those ones, but the first one's really easy for me. I can prioritize because not everything is aligned with who I want to be. I think I wrote a different thing in the chat, but I know what my priorities are and I have skills to do that. And yeah, the thing it probably does is it brings back in some of that reason, like my understanding. So it helps me bring back my knowledge when I'm, because I think when you're saying with the should, it's almost like it's almost like this victim version of myself where it's like you should do this and you can't. It's like something unsaid there.
Yeah, I love that. Anybody else want to share this? What they experience with, going from the should to could to can to the because? Yeah, Dan.
Like a feeling of possibility.
Possibility, yeah. Everything is possible. Like it's these stories that hold us back, these unchallenged stories, and changing a simple word. Yeah, what does that create? Possibility, man. Awesome. Okay, so that's what we call the should detox. If taking this, running with it, trying it with somebody else. If you're ever having a chat with somebody in the Uncom network, other players, be sure to try playing this game. Try playing this game with somebody else, somebody that's not even in the network. The more that you do it, the more that you rep it out, the more that you'll begin to notice these should statements. So when you catch yourself with the should, do this 4-step process of, changing the words from should to could to can and because. It's that why statement. It's what we all hear for in the network is our why. What is that why? It's something bigger and grander than us. As men, we get to have a purpose bigger than us, which energizes us to go forward. So have the calls, book more calls with your Uncom brothers there, and yeah. So getting back into some of the other things, your stories are what can hold you back, keeping you stuck like an anchor, or spring you forward like a tailwind, creating momentum towards your desired destination, setting you on a uncommon path to success. We can either choose to believe these false, outdated, misleading stories, or cultivate new stories that lift us up and move us forward into a better life. I will always be a stupid fisherman. It's a spell. I cast a spell on myself. A spell is a word or a combination of words with great power. And I'll drop another quote for you guys. Don't speak negatively about yourself, even as a joke. Your body doesn't know the difference. Words are energy and they cast spells. That's why it's called spelling. Change the way you speak about yourself and you can change your life. Anybody know who said that? Just raise your hand. That's Bruce Lee. I mean, if there was any uncommon guy, there was him. And then the word abracadabra, you can write this down as well. Abracadabra. It's Aramaic in origin. It's similar to the same language that Jesus spoke. And, translated, it's with our word we create, or with our words we influence. So our language influences 4 main parts: our imagination, our feelings and emotions, our breathing, and our physiology. So Tyson said something about a little bit about this in the meditation. It's like, what thoughts are coming up? What is that? What is the feeling that it's creating inside of you? What is it doing to your physiology? What is it doing to your posture? When we hold these heavy stories, we literally begin to flex our shoulders forward. We're holding ourselves. We're not sitting up straight. We're not sitting with confidence. So depending on the time, are we good for time there, John? Cool. I played this game in the first Mind Gym. I spoke about it, the soft talk challenge. I think it's worth to put in again to recognize, what soft talk is. Should is one of the words in soft talk. It's the words that create ambiguity, confusion. They really stop us from fully committing to our goals, our desires, and our uncommon pursuits. If you choose to accept this challenge, you will improve your confidence, you will communicate clearly and effectively, and make easier progress towards your goals. So this will also be in the Notion page. I'll have some of the instructions in there and a couple of wallpapers and things like that you guys can put as screensavers on your phone. But there is advantages to writing it out yourself, actually taking a pen and paper and taking action right now. So if you are watching the recording, if guys right now, grab another clean piece of paper and a pen and write down the following soft talk keywords and write it pretty big. If it's a full page, I'll show you guys something. I've got a printed out board over here, if you guys can see. of full on all the words which is stuck up in front of me over here. So when I'm on calls or when I'm talking, I'm always constantly reminded of these words to get out of my vocab. So if you've got your pen and paper ready, write down the words. You can make 2 rows, kinda, maybe, guess, sorta or sort of, might, probably, possibly, think, hope, try, one day, could, potentially. I'll put these in the chat. Perhaps. There's a couple more, but I'll put this in the chat. So writing that up on a piece of paper, pretty big. You can always redo it after the call. Pretty big, and sticking it in front of you somewhere where you're going to see it. Stick it in front of the toilet, so when you're having your morning, you can remember to put should on there as well. You can remember that should statements. Some people should on themselves a lot. So I'll put that in the chat quick. And then it's super simple. Take these words out of your vocabulary. When you jump on calls with uncom players, when you're having calls with each other, use less of these words. When you create goals, when you think of things that you want to do, take these words out. There'll be more instructions in the Notion page. Yeah, that is pretty much me. Getting from the stories, these beliefs. I believed I was gonna be a stupid fisherman. Distilling that into a story, where that story came from, and knowing that that story is just a sentence, and then changing one word in that sentence allowed me for different perception, a different reality, and began making different choices because now I was open to it. The words literally changed my imagination. Changing one word allowed me to change my imagination. So yeah, if I want to get better at doing the actual work of story work and taking people through this process. So yeah, there'll be some details in the Notion page where you guys can contact me, and yeah, we can go dive deeper if you feel called to. And yeah, thanks for joining and listening in. Go out and try these games, the should detox, and put in the soft talk challenge. Get in the reps. It's something when you rep out, you will get better at it. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Dan. Appreciate it. It's just so you know, it's tough being in a group chat with Daniel. He pulls you up on all your shoulds, coulds, maybes. So I appreciate it, brother. It helps me be more intentional with the words I use because I'm a soft talker at the best of times. Appreciate everyone coming in today. I know that some of this will be new stuff or different things. So I'm John. My name and my handle, they're Valued Action Man, but the biggest move I've made for myself is figuring out that most people think the uncommon path is like a linear process where we just grow and we climb and things improve and we get better. But the reality of the situation is that a lot of us will grow, have a setback, or get into an uncertain space, discomfort, sales, launching an offer, putting out your social media, and there'll be setbacks. The challenge is that most of us, or most of the common approach to this, is that people after a setback will withdraw. They will turn away from their emotions. They will get stuck with an inner critic, have lots of negative stuff that pulls you down. And this is the common approach. So the uncommon approach really is, how do we respond better to setbacks? And I led with that because self-compassion is one of the most overpowered skills. Like when I say that, I find a lot of men switch off. It's like self-compassion might be interesting, but I hold myself to higher standards. It's not something I'm going to practice or utilize. But the reality is, in professional athletes, when they study this, it's a 10.2% improvement in performance after a loss. Sometimes you're going to lose. And if someone can build this skill, it's more effective than confidence at predicting performance. So self-compassion as a skill is overpowered, in my opinion. So the way I look at it is, when we have a setback, we often look through a keyhole in the door. So we got this door here, we're seeing this tiny little keyhole, and we look through and we think, I failed. It's hopeless. I'm no good at this. All the inner critic stuff Dan was talking about. I'm lazy or whatever it was. I'm on a boat and I'm never getting off. All this stuff is looking through that keyhole and seeing a very small perspective. So what we do with self-compassion really is we open the door and we find out what else is true. It's really about, I would say, wisdom. It's like the reality that this is the world. We treat ourselves with kindness, but we understand that lots of people go through this, and we make contact with whatever we want to do next. It's not about like allowing. It's not about getting stuck in the emotion. It's about responding in the most adaptive way possible. So that's what we're going to work through today. The tool I use for this one is called the and frame, and it's about asking questions. What else is true in this situation? So if you don't mind going through it, what we might try is looking at, and probably in your own situation, if you feel like writing down, if you've got the pens already out, that's probably cool. But visualizing will be part of this. So a bit of both. The idea is that we want to look at, have you faced a recent setback? Have you faced a recent thing where you didn't get the outcome you wanted? Have you faced something where there's been challenges or discomfort or whatever else recently? And I want you to really bring up what happened in that situation. So this might be self-criticism. It might be that inner critic that's talking to you and telling you that you're hopeless or that things won't get better. Could be an emotion, uncertainty, whatever else. And for you, whatever situation that is, I really want you to like ramp it up at this moment, because what we're going to try and do is work with that. So if you can experience it in this situation, it makes it a lot easier to actually get out a proper rep. Now, just got to show everyone good. You got a situation you're thinking of? Yeah? Anyone need a little bit longer? No. So what we do, the and frame is a tool I use with 3 steps. It's ACE. ACE is the acronym, and just so you know, no need to take notes on this sort of stuff. We will be sending all the tools through afterwards. But ACE means acknowledge, come back into the body, and engage. So what we do, the first step is acknowledge. And this is just bringing awareness. So you might say, you want to acknowledge your thoughts and feelings and silently notice what's showing up in the body or showing up inside. So you might want to name your feelings. If you're noticing guilt, so for me, when I deal with the setback, often for me, it's guilt, shame, anger, or thoughts about why I'm not good enough or the challenges I might go through. Laziness, you're lazy. Why do you keep failing at this? My inner critic just shows up with some of this sort of negative talk. So just acknowledging initially what it is. We need to know what the playing field is. Hurt can be a sensation or emotion. You can just say hurt, whatever the label is for you, Garrett. So the second step is C. So we come back into the body. So there's a few mindfulness type practices today. So if you don't feel all right doing this, all we do with the come back in the body is put your feet flat into the floor, push your feet hard in, and you might notice the sensation on the floor. Straighten up your back, sit forward in your chair. One thing I like to do, and because it's a very sensory part of the body, is put your fingertips together, a bit like Mr. Burns. Imagine and just feel the sensations on your fingertips. The goal here is really to bring yourself back into this present moment. When we get lost, we might be thinking about what I need to do tomorrow or what's happening next week, or we might be going back into the past and thinking of the things we don't want to be thinking about. So we just bring it back into the current moment. And then you might stretch a little, move your arms, shrug your shoulders, notice your breath. And these are all momentary feelings. You're just feeling all these sensations in the present moment. The E is for engage. So it's about engaging what is happening in your environment and then going back into what you're meant to be doing. So we'll start with looking around. So look around the room and see what are 5 things you can see. And you might just mentally take a note. You might say, I can see a light. I can see Garrett's fan floating above his head. I can see whatever else is happening for you. Might be hangings on the wall. Just take some time to notice 5 things. Now we want to notice, what are 3 things you can hear? You can obviously hear my voice. Can you hear something else in your environment? Could be wind, could be trees, could be your partner telling you that you've spent too much time on uncom today. Whatever it is for you. Now, I often do smell, depends on the space you're in, but is there something you can smell or taste or feel a sensation in your mouth? And then we get into our and frame. So the and frame is structured around a question. It's how might I? So there's 3 main questions you'll ask yourself. And remembering we're in that situation for us, we're noticing the setback we've dealt with, we're noticing the feelings that are coming up from that. So the first question I would ask you to ponder for yourself is, how might I acknowledge my own pain in a kind way? So I'll repeat that because I mumbled. How might I acknowledge my own pain in a kind way? So if you were able to be kind to yourself, what would that look like for you? Sometimes when I'm working with men, I often ask, how might you be kind to a friend? Because we're a lot better at being kind to others than we are turning that on ourselves. So giving yourself to experience that, noticing whatever the answer might be for you. The second question we drop into is, how might I learn from this experience? Or what does it have to teach me? We ask this with the knowledge that even in a setback, there is something to be learned. I often quote the Conor McGregor one, which is, we win or we learn. Every setback is an opportunity to learn something once we've got a question framed around finding information. It's not about identifying that you're wrong or broken. It's now acknowledging that everyone struggles, but there is something to learn. And then we ask the final how might I question, which is, how might I respond in a way that's helpful to the person I want to be? So for you, if there's a setback, for me, for example, I spent a long time stuck, not wanting to start social media and not being ready and having a thought around that. So for me, it was the person I want to be is someone sharing my message. I want to be out there putting out whatever it is that I thought I could share and help people with. So for you, what is it, the person you want to be after that setback? And then the final question outside of the how might I is, we finish with, what is the one thing you can do after this to move forwards? So this is one you might write down. So if you've learned the lesson, if you've acknowledged your pain, if you've learned from the experience, you know the person you want to be, what is one thing you can do after this call that can help you take action back into that space? So if you've disengaged, if you're having thoughts about, I can't be organized and I need to learn Notion, then for you, that might be, I'm going to have a look at a resource on how to structure my process. Or for me, when I was struggling with social media, there was a bit of a, how can I get out of my own way and just put something out and not be critical of it? What's the smallest step? And I would put this challenge out there. It's not about a goal. It's about what's the smallest possible thing. And I can say from experience that most people put something like go for a 10K run or something big. It's not, this thing is to have a pebble step. So what's the smallest possible step you can do after this towards whatever it was that you dealt with? Just giving you a few seconds, guys, to wrap up. And I might even open, I know we're running close on time, but I would open up if anyone would like to make a public commitment to what they're going to move forwards on. Yep, Garrett.
I'm going to move forward on communicating my value to others by asking others and coaches and mentors and people that I know how to do that.
Nice. Reaching out. Anyone else who wanted to share? Feel comfortable too, but otherwise happy for you not to as well. That's cool. So fantastic job, guys. And this is how we build our self-compassion muscles. I would recommend a regular practice. Self-compassion, having my own experience with it, it dwindles over time. And my belief is at least once a week doing work on self-compassion, because once you get hit, it's much harder to respond well. I like to use the Mike Tyson one, which is everyone has a plan till they get punched in the mouth. And it's much harder to start practicing self-compassion after you're dealing with a setback than it is to have that muscle flexed and ready to respond to it before it happens. So building in Sunday mornings as my self-compassion time, take those practical skills and make something of that. It's patience and persistence. It takes time. So awesome, guys. Appreciate that. And let's stick on the uncommon path. Tyson, back to you. Did you want to throw in the video? I'm just thinking with time-wise, we might play the exercise and see how we're going.
Yeah. So just start the exercise first, and then we can go from there. So yeah, guys, I'm going to share a little exercise from David Rowan. If you haven't contacted or been in contact with David yet, he does some somatic work, and we're going to listen to him. He wasn't able to make it today, so he's recorded us a little exercise here. So I'm just going to cue it up because where's the hell has it gone? Cool. So what did he say about 4:47, didn't he? Around here.
Right, we resist the situation. Acceptance. So come back to drop yourself in for mindfulness. Find your belly soft and your feet and your seat grounded.
Was it 4:47, John?
Seat on the chair. Let the breath settle.
And yeah.
Seat grounded of experiential.
Sorry,
right?
guys.
Like we can, and we resist the situation. Of course, you have a choice.
Sorry, guys. Just give me a moment.
And it was like a million light bulbs of just like, oh, right. Like we can, and we do resist. And a lot of the time, subconsciously, right? We resist the situation as opposed to accepting it. So now we'll do a little exercise getting to the experiential part of experiential acceptance. So come back to drop yourself in for mindfulness. Find your belly soft and your feet and your seat grounded. Feet on the floor, your seat on the chair. And let the breath settle. And I'm gonna ask you a prompt here, and we'll just explore a little bit together, take note of what comes to mind. You'll have a chance to make some notes afterward. If you had a magic button, what would you change about yourself or your life right now? If you had a magic button, what would you change about yourself or your life right now? So again, if we were together in person in real time, I would, solicit some responses and explore. Since it's a recording, we'll proceed like this. This is where the acceptance is lacking, right? What came up for you, that's where there is a gap in self-acceptance. Can you accept yourself? Can you accept this aspect that you identified about yourself right now in this moment? Well, maybe, and if so, great, but it's not easy to flip a switch. And it's also not to say that you shouldn't have goals, aspirations, whatever. I mean, easy one for me is I want my body to look and feel different than it does. And I struggle with cravings, kind of day after day. It's a vicious cycle that's hard for me to break, cravings of food. So just an aside there, I still have my goals and I still have my aspirations, and the self-acceptance is a bit of a moving target, I would say. But both have to coexist, right? The goal, the aspiration for the thing to be different, and the in the moment acceptance of the way things are right now. Back to the Carl Rogers quote, in order for it to change, I have to start by accepting where it is right now. So this seems like another paradox, that the goals and the acceptance have to coexist. I'll share another quote from F. Scott Fitzgerald: "The test of a first-rate intelligence is the ability to hold two opposed ideas in mind at the same time and still retain the ability to function." One of my favorites. So if you had trouble flipping the switch into self-acceptance, let's proceed a little bit with the exercise. You could do this in the kind of mindful, meditative state. Think of someone in your life, ideally someone you care deeply about, and ideally someone who's maybe a bit younger than you, or you're a bit of maybe a mentor to, offer wisdom to, that kind of thing. And let's imagine that this person comes to you and presents with the very aspect of you, the very identical one that you just identified, or the situation of your life, as difficult to accept. So, what comes up for you? What thoughts? And at a layer beneath that, what emotions? Right? The world of thoughts moves very quickly. Emotions are a bit slower. And slower still are sensations. So notice the subtle sensations of what's happening in the body. This is what makes this experiential exercise through the lens of somatic awareness, right? Is paying attention to sensations. And notice how the sensations shift or change if you pay attention to them. And can you, as a micro practice of self-acceptance, let all of those thoughts, emotions, and sensations just be there without having to change or challenge or resist against any of them? Now, here's the clincher. What counsel would you offer to this person who's presenting with the same lack of acceptance in the same arena about themselves or about their life? What counsel would you offer this person that you care about? And take a moment, jot down a few notes, bullet points, something to elaborate on later, journal prompts, what have you. So the question for contemplation is, what's getting in the way of you offering to yourself, and also receiving, that's a crucial part, that same wise counsel, right? This exercise is quite transparent in a lot of ways, and yet it is typically so much easier for us to offer that acceptance to another than it is to offer to ourselves, in the same way that, we would never talk to someone else the way our inner critic talks to us, most of the time, right? And so similarly, that self-acceptance piece, much easier to extend to another person, the acceptance, than to ourselves. So what's getting in the way of you offering to yourself that same wise counsel? One last example before closing here. In my adult life, I'm now 18 in adult years, is a real riches to rags story, and hopefully back to riches. I took a job as a delivery driver with FedEx to try and stabilize financially, and it's taken time, but it has done so much more than just that for me. I struggled hard in the beginning, and still do sometimes, with the mere reality of being a blue-collar worker, thinking, me, a former poker pro and a student of these fringe healing modalities and all my knowledge and experience, why am I stuck here, right? And what shifted for me was that I was able to accept my reality, and I was able to stay open to, what am I grateful for here and now, right? And in what ways is this helping me learn and grow here and now, even if not learning in the traditional sense. I'm not in an academic environment, right? There's plenty of room for self-study, for what it's like to be with myself and my, difficult emotions and experiences throughout my workday, day in, day out, right? As a practice, as an exercise, almost like going out on the delivery route is like going to the monastery, right? And I'm going to have that intention of looking inward and investigating what's coming up, investigating what is this material of consciousness. So it was accepting that allowed me to make use of it and to harvest the fruit that was there, including, it also helped me get out of chronic pain. Like I said, ATG was the thing, but it really challenged my beliefs of where I was and my abilities and what would be painful or make my pain worse. And I was impressed with what was able to do and still able to do with my body. It's a difficult physical job. It led to a handful of deep friendships that I still maintain, and that I'm sure there are more of those to come. And I built a sense of confidence by seeing a need for different management structure and being promoted to see that was created. And finally, it also made homeownership viable. I wouldn't be in this house that we purchased if not for this job. Granted, took a while, took some scrimping and saving and some sacrifice, but got to this big goal, this pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. It also helped finance a lot of other enriching life experiences, including joining Uncommon Success. So I'll close with just an emphasis on the importance of shadow work. I wrote this line: if I'm not even aware of what's there, how can I accept it? Shadow, being the unconscious, is a whole other topic that is lifetimes deep, but it's worth mentioning here because I think that it has a direct connection to self-acceptance. A lot of time it's what's getting in the way of self-acceptance, and there are a lot of things in our shadow that, for the betterment of ourselves as people, we need to uncover and integrate in order to grow. So different ways you can study shadow work or work with your own shadow. Psychotherapy, tried and true, find a good therapist, or somatic coaching, which is the work that I do. Meditation, breath work, solitude in nature, that can all sort of help generate some of that unconscious material. Psychedelics is another way. Again, lifetimes to say about that. Relationship, especially romantic intimate partnership. I mean, if you really want to see some of the more challenging aspects of your personality, and I'm saying your, but I really mean me, relationship is a great, a sort of sacred mirror for uncovering that material. And the last thing I wrote here is confession. Confession to another trusted person or to a journal, authenticity, right? A lot of the time, the shadow, the voices and the images and the material of the shadow are like, they're not that far beneath the surface, right? They're just in the recesses of the mind, but not the deepest recesses, just close to the surface. And if we pay attention, we might hear them, but it's really captured when we can kind of put it out there, and when we can work with it, and when we can recognize the humanity in it, and accept ourselves for the parts of our shadow that we witness and see that are really difficult to integrate. And if we're with a trusted individual, journal is also a really safe way to do that, right? And we can confess that. We can say, oh my God, I had this thought, or I, encountering this part of my shadow that is just so difficult. And I know that that's not my value system, for example, but it's really difficult to hold that I had that thought or I had that vision, or, I wished ill upon someone else or what have you. So along with that, I think just authenticity at large is a great way to work with the shadow material. And I mean that by being authentic with oneself, being true with oneself.
All right, guys. So, Dave, thank you for supplying that one. But the rest of the video and David's chat is going to be in the Notion. So, urge you guys to go. That's an action that you guys can take, is to jump on the Notion. We'll share that shortly with everybody that was here, and obviously everybody that could potentially be watching it in the future. That'll be on the Notion workbook, flexing your muscles. your mind muscles. With that, guys, we're almost done. We're going to close off with a bit of a closing meditation led by myself, and then we will be underway and on to your own adventures, whether it's bedtime or getting on with your day. All right, guys. So again, with any meditation led by me, make yourself as comfortable as possible. So if you want to lean up against something, just if you want to close down the eyes, turn off your camera, whatever it feels good for you, do that. You got shoes on, maybe kicking them off and just letting the feet just really root down into the ground. With all the information that you've been given today. Maybe there's been a little light bulb that has gone off. Certain areas that might have been illuminated. Certain shadows that might have had a bit of light shone on them. Now noticing the energy and sitting in your body, maybe from doing these statements, doing the work, noticing maybe the language that you use in your day-to-day. Coming back to that initial intention that you set for your session today. You stick with it, achieve something from it. What can you take from the intention that you set, or the information that you gathered? And create an intention for the week ahead. And when you have that intention, and you can see it in your mind's eye, right up there in between your eyes, your eyebrow center. You see it clearly. Everyone's intention is going to be different. Can you allow that intention just to kind of pulsate, reverberate, and just begin to kind of continue to elaborate and grow within the mind, the body, embodying your intention for the week. Whether it's a huge intention, one that you know that you can achieve, or just like the simplest intention that, again, something that you can achieve. Just pulsating, vibrating, feeling it in the body. And 2 more breaths here. Letting it marinate through the whole body. From the arms, legs, fingers and toes, right down from the crown of your head into the soles of your feet. Take 1 deep breath in together. Fill up into the belly, up into the chest. Just allow the nose to exhale the breath out. And with that, my uncommon brothers, session is now complete. Thank you so much for joining us today, guys. Everybody who's here and in virtual land eventually who may watch this. Like we've mentioned before, all the exercises and stuff will be loaded up onto our Notion Mind Gym, and urge you to get involved there. If you've seen someone here on the call today and you want to connect with them, maybe take a mental note, discuss some Mind Gym stuff with them on a connect call. And if you need any more information on anything that has occurred personally, give myself, Dan, John, and David a bell or a connect call, and we're happy to have a chat with you as well. So thank you, guys.
Thanks everybody for joining in. Put in those reps. Delete that soft talk. Play the should game. Yeah, have a beautiful day
That's it.
further.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Keegs, if you're still there. If you're there somewhere, Keegs will kill the session. And thank you, guys. See you later.
Hey guys, just a heads up. So there's another chat happening in about 15 minutes. So if you're keen for another call, we're going over the August game, the Future Expander. So that'll be happening in 15 minutes.
Great.
Those of you can still make it. Thanks a lot, guys, for the session.
Thanks. Cheers, guys. See you in 15. Chat.